We stopped here at this slide, and we see that we may do some mathematical operations in one table or multiple tables. All right, so now we need to, all what we covered so far is how to retrieve data. Now we need to learn how to store data. In order to store data, we use the command insert into table name, and then the keyword values, and then list of values enclosed between brackets. For example, you can see here insert into coffee values, and then the description, and then the product number, and then the price. This line is going to insert this value in the first column, this string value in the second column, this double value in the third column. That means the order is matter here. And you need to know in advance that the first value should go for the description, because description has been defined as the first column. And this is going to go for the product number, because we know that the product number has been defined as a second column, and so on. So this is valid SQL command, just to insert some data into the table. And now here, I'm adding here full length of the data. If you need to store data to a specific column and you don't need to worry about the order, then we have other format for the insert command. So we can say here, insert into the table, and then list the columns that I need to insert the data in, the order the way I need, and then write the keyword values, and then the corresponding values for each of these columns. For example, here I need to insert into the coffee table to be stored in the column product number, price, and description. Notice that here it's not the same order that we defined in the table. The table originally defined as description, product number, and price. And then here the values, then I write here the values that is correspond to the order I mentioned in the column names. So this value is going to be set in the column product number. This value is going to set the column price, and this value is going to be set the column description. Good, so let us move on. Now, how going to send these commands from Java to the database? We know that when we have a select statement, we use execute query. But here, when we need to change something in the data, we use execute update. So in the previous examples, when you talk about select star or select any column, we use execute query. Now we need to use the method execute update for any SQL commands that need to insert new data, update existing data, or delete some existing data. So first of all, we need to create a new statement object. Again, we use the connection object using the create statement methods. We have a statement object. And then I have here normal string variable. I defined here my statement, insert into copy between brackets, product number, comma, price, comma, description, concatenated with the keyword values, concatenated with 3 values that correspond to the 3 columns. Notice that here, the way I'm concatenating the command, it's just normal string manipulation you used to do in many different uses in your Java applications. Then I have one complete string that represents one SQL statement, and then I'm using execute update, not execute query. And then sending here this string as a parameter. And then we expect something to return. This will not return what you have saved in the database, but we're going to return how many lines has been saved in the database, how many rows are going to be saved in the table. So if this is just 1, then I'm going to return here 1. If we going to store multiple, okay, we're going to retrieve how many rows has been updated. We can update the existing value in the table or existing row or line in the table. We use the keyword update, and this is another SQL command, update table. And how we're going to update it? We need to set specific column with a specific value. And we can add here some criteria as well. For example, I can say update coffee, my table name, set price equal 9.95. Not for all rows, for the rows that satisfy this expression. Update the price for all rows in the table that the description value is equal to this value. If we have just one, we're going to update just one price. If we have multiple rows having this description value, then I'm going to update all of them. The price is going to be 9.95. We can also use all the skills that we learned for creating the criteria. We can use the keyword like as well. And we may have just update with set value, something like this. Update coffee set price equal 4.95. And we don't have where clause here. It's still valid command. And in this case, if we just issue this command, that means every single data row in the table, we're going to change the value for the price to 4.95. Every line will going to be affected, and the value for the price will be set to 4.95. If we don't have specific criteria to select specific rows to be updated. So sometimes we need to do so with some intention. Sometimes that we did this by mistakes. And if you did that, that's going to change all the data, and then you may have some corrupted data. So keep this in mind that if we don't have that where clause, that we may affect the whole table. All right. How can we send this command update from the Java to database management system? Again, we're going to use the execute update for the statement object. First of all, we need to form a valid SQL command for update. And then I'm sending this string to execute updates, the same way I did for insert. And going to return here how many rows has been affected. So based on this description, we can say we have only one match, then the row is going to be only one. If we have 3 matches with this expression, then we're going to have here the value 3. Another thing that you need to look to in this example, notice that here, this is here single quotes, and this is here double quote. Don't forget this. If you need to compare between the description, which is string, you need to include this by single quotes. If you flip them, then this is going to give you an error or give you an unexpected result. All right, so as we know that we can insert, we can update, we can also delete. So we can use the keyword delete from the table that satisfies this criteria after where. So in this example here, we have delete from coffee where product number equal 20-001. That means search for all rows in the table that satisfy this condition. That means the product number is 20-001. Whenever you find such row, delete it from the table. Also, we have another example here. We can delete and use like to search for substring only. So we can say delete all the rows that start the description value or the description column start by Sumatra and then any other string of characters. If you need to delete the entire table, you can say delete from coffee. That's it. That means all data in that table will be deleted, but will not delete the table itself. Want to delete the data of the table, but still I have table defined in the database. For example, I have a table called coffee, and the table has 3 columns. The first column is called description, the second column called product number, the third column is called price. This information will still there in the database, but has empty data. So delete from coffee will delete all the data, but will not delete the description of the table inside the database. So later on, we can use it to insert new data on it. Okay, so again, we use the same methods, execute updates. So any SQL command that need to insert, change, delete, we use execute updates. Any command for select, just to retrieve, we use execute query. Good, so how can we create a table? So all this example assume that we already have that table defined and created in database. To create a new table in database, this is the command we use. We use the command create, and then create table, the commands, and then write the table name and start to define a list of columns. and each column need to define each type. For example, here I need to define a table called customer. So I am using the command create table and then write the table name. Not necessarily to be starting by capital letter, but it's good to use the same naming convention we use it with our course. So the same naming convention we use it for a class name. So it's good to have the same naming convention for the table names. So we see that the class name should start by capital letter and then all characters lowercase. If we have the name of the class consists of multiple words, we capitalize the first letter of each word. No space in between, no underscore as well. So this is here the table name, create table and the table name, and then between open and close brackets, then we need to write a list of the name of all columns. So the first column name is called name, and then space, then I need to write the type of that column. This is *25. Comma, that means I need to describe the second column. Then the second column is called address, space, and it's also 25 characters length. Comma, again, it can be in the same line or multiple lines. The third column is called city, and it is again string up to 12 characters. State, then this is the first column with 2 characters, and then the last column, zip, and again, it is char by up to 5 characters. Then we close it. That means I need to create a customer table with these columns and their data type. So I create here a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 column in one table called custom. And this is the size of each column. We said that in order to facilitate fast way to insert, to retrieve from huge amount of data, then we need to define a primary key. And the primary key, you need to make sure that it is defined one specific column or multiple columns, such that the value of these columns want to be unique values, no duplication in any of these values. So I need to add primary key for my previous table. So I added here customer number, and assuming that this is going to be a unique identification for the customers. That means we don't have 2 customers having the same number. So I'm going to define a field here, customer number, a string, 10 characters, and define it as primary key. And primary key cannot be a null value. So it should be not null. That means there is no chance to have empty value for the customer number. So if you try to store empty value here, when we write not null, the program will give you an error. And when we define it as primary key, that means when we save data in the database, we're going to be saved in a way that sorted, so that sorted based on that ID or this column, so that when we need to insert or retrieve something, we're going to have it in very fast way. And if it is primary, and you try to store some value for the customer number that exists already, this will give you another error as well. So most of the time when we send the command for a database, we use it through try and catch, so that when we have an error from the commands, we need to catch it and then whether to display a proper message or to reissue it in the right way. So this is here the way how to define a primary key. And most of the time, we need to do so because this is the purpose for having relational database management systems. So by the way, if you need to alter this table, if you just create this table and you figure out that that was 25 and just need to make it 10. The way we do this, we would drop it and we create it again. So to drop a table, we use the keyword drop table. So drop table here is the command, is a SQL command. And then we write the table name here. That means we'll drop the definition of that table from database. And if we have some data in that table, this data will going to be erased as well. So be careful when you use this command. We see that when we define the connection to the database, we need to determine what kind of data base we are using. So we're going using here Derby. This again, open source from Oracle. So this is the format. We use JDBC, and then the database name, and then the database brand name, and here your database name, and then we write here create equal true. That means each time we have this connection, we assume that whether to create it from scratch, or if it is there, we just overwrite the existing ones.